the source of all power. O my Lord, who possesses nails and teeth just like thunderbolts, kindly vanquish our demonic-like desires for fruitive activity in this material world. Please appear in our hearts and drive away our ignorance, so that by your mercy we may become fearless in the struggle for existence in this material world. Responsibly, I offer my respectful obeisances unto Lord Nrsimhadev, the source of all power. O my Lord, who possesses nails and teeth, just like thunderbolts, kindly vanquish our demon-like desires for fruitive activity in this material world. Please appear in our hearts and drive away our ignorance, so that by your mercy we may become fearless in the struggle for existence in this material world. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. In Srimad Bhagavatam 4:22-39, Sanat Kumara speaks the following words to Maharaj Prithu. Yat pada pankaja palasha vilasa bhaktya karmasayam kratitam ugrayaya ti santa tadvan nidikta matayo yatayo pirudha shotaganas tamaranam bhajavasudevam. Devotees always engaged in the service of the toes of the lotus feet, of the Lord's lotus feet, can very easily become free from hard-knotted desires for fruitive activities. Because this is very difficult, the non-devotees, the jnanis and yogis, cannot stop the waves of sense gratification, although they try to do so. Therefore, you are advised to engage in the devotional service of Krishna, the son of Vasudeva. Every living being within this material world has a strong desire to enjoy matter to his fullest satisfaction. For this purpose, the conditioned soul must accept one body after another, and thus the strongly fixed fruitive desires continue. One cannot stop the repetition of birth and death without being completely desireless. Therefore, Srila Rupa Goswami describes the pure bhakti, devotional service, as follows. Nya vilashita sunyam shunyam jnana karma jnanamritam anukulyena krishnanu shilanam bhakti uttama. One should render transcendental loving service to the Supreme Lord, Krishna, favorably and without desire for material profit or gain, through fruitive activities or philosophical speculation. That is called pure devotional service. Quote, unquote. Unless one is completely freed of all material desires, which are caused by the dense darkness of ignorance, one cannot fully engage in the devotional service of the Lord. Therefore, we should always offer our prayers. Therefore, we should always offer our prayers to Lord Nrsimhadev, who killed Hiranyakashipu. The personification of material desire. Hiranya means gold, and Kashipu means, quote, a soft cushion or bed, end quote. Materialistic persons always desire to make the body comfortable, and for this they require huge amounts of gold. Thus, Hiranyakashipu was a perfect representative of materialistic life. He was therefore the cause of great disturbance to the topmost devotee, Prahlad Maharaj, until Lord Nrsimhadev killed him. Any devotee aspiring to be free of material desires should offer his respectful obeisances to Nrsimhadev, as Prahlad Maharaj did in this verse. The verse again by Srila Prabhupada, translation. I offer my respectful obeisances unto Lord Nrsimhadev, the source of all power. O my Lord, who possesses nails and teeth just like thunderbolts, kindly vanquish our demon-like desires for fruitive activity in this material world. Please appear in our hearts and drive away our ignorance, so that by your mercy we may become fearless in the struggle for existence in this material world. Mukam karoti vachalam pangalam etegi emetri patraham vande shrigariti acharane. Prabhupada who instigated this singing Lord Srinivasa prayers at the end of every arti. These are, of course, prayers for protection. There was one very frail devotee, I remember, in San Francisco in about 1967, very small and very frail, and he was sort of attacked by a very big and burly man on the streets of San Francisco. This actually happened. And he was about to get beaten up, and this, I don't know, he didn't like the way he looked or the way he dressed or something, and he had a shaved head and was wearing a dhoti. And this man was about ready to beat him, and he threw him against the wall and started to raise his fist to attack him. And this devotee cried out as loud as he could, "Lord Nrsingadev, Nrsingadev," just screaming at the top of his lungs. And he spoke so loudly that the people across the road threw open their windows. They lived in these big blocks of flats, big 7 or 8 story buildings. And this person who was about to beat him became very fearful by seeing so many people watching at their windows. And he just kind of walked away. And so this devotee was saved by Lord Nrsingadev. Of course, there's many different stories about Lord Nrsingadev saving people. And Indraduna Maharaj tells many different stories. I can't remember them all, but how Nrsingadev, he carries him around with his in his case wherever he travels. Sometimes customs people are very, very concerned about what is this thing? What is this half lion, half man? And when Prahlad was praying to be saved, it was very difficult for Hiranyakashipu to kill him. And Hiranyakashipu got this benediction that he couldn't be killed by any man or beast, by day or night, on the inside or outside of the house, in day or night. So Lord Nrsingadev appeared just at the right moment, and he couldn't be killed on land, sea, or air. Just at the right moment. It was twilight, or what they sort of between daylight and sun. It was at sunset. It wasn't nighttime and it wasn't daytime. And he was killed on the lap of the Lord. And he wasn't killed by man or beast. And another of his benedictions was he couldn't be killed by any man-made weapon. And it was the nails of the Lord that pierced his body and caused his intestines to come out. It was a horrible thing. And when Lord Nrsingadev appeared, he kind of mildly chastised Prahlad. He said, and Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva were there. He chastised everybody, not so much Prahlad Maharaj, but more like Lord Brahma for giving this benediction. And he said, "You made things a little bit difficult for me." Because he had to appear exactly at the right moment, and he had to appear exactly in the right place. So he kind of mildly chastised Lord Brahma for giving Hiranyakashipu this benediction. He thought he would become immortal because of these benedictions, but actually he wasn't. And so that's how he appeared. And he appeared from the pillar. It was a very fearsome thing. And when I was in Los Angeles, there was a devotee who had a painting of Nrsingadev tearing open the stomach of Hiranyakashipu and the bloody intestines coming out. And we were hosting one lady who was not a devotee at that time. She was an actress, and she was eating with us, and she looked up and saw this picture, and she was completely horrified. And it's a very scary picture. And there was another incident when this same picture was brought into a courtroom in Boston, where there was a deep anti-sort of Hare Krishna case going on. And one of the devotees was on the witness stand, and the prosecuting attorney asked him, what is this? It was a picture of Lord Nrsingadev, and Prahlad is standing by with the garland, about ready to put a garland on Lord Nrsingadev's body after killing Hiranyakashipu. And so the question that the prosecuting attorney asked was, who is this? Who is the man being killed? And he said, Hiranyakashipu. Who is the person holding the garland? And he said, that's Prahlad Maharaj. And he said, well, what's his relationship to the man being killed? Well, it's his son. And anyway, it looked pretty bleak at that point. But somehow or other, the case, the devotees won the case, even though it was a very, very difficult thing to explain. And in one lecture, Prabhupada was saying how morally this was a very horrible thing to see that a man would be garlanding the killer of his father. But from a Krishna conscious point of view, it made some sense. And often Prahlad Maharaj was referred to as a Nityasiddha, or our Nityasiddha friend. I think Prabhupada once called him Nityasiddha friend. But there's a place in the Bhagavatam where Prahlad's instructions were given to him by Narada Muni while Prahlad was still in the womb. And the question was raised, if he's a Nityasiddha, why did he have to get instructions at all? And one of the answers is that even Krishna himself had a spiritual master. So it's part of the Vaishnava etiquette to have a spiritual master to guide us and to be there for us, even though we may be a Nityasiddha. And I wrote one letter to Prabhupada and I asked him, what are you? Are you a Nityasiddha, or are you a sadhana-siddha, or a kripa-siddha, or what? Because in a way, he's all three of those things. So he wrote back and said and he didn't really actually come out and say he was a Nityasiddha, but he said that there was never a time that I can remember when I did not remember Krishna. And he said it really doesn't matter whether you're a Nityasiddha or a kripa-siddha or a sadhana-siddha, because it's sort of like, he gave this material example, this is in a letter he wrote to me, it's sort of like all in the ocean. You don't try to figure out where all the rivers are, or the names of all the rivers that feed into the ocean, but it's all ocean water. So he said whether one is a kripa-siddha or a nityasiddha or a sadhana-siddha, when one is a siddha, it really doesn't matter whether he became a siddha because he's a nityasiddha, or because he was a sadhana-siddha, or because he was a kripa-siddha. He's just a siddha, he's a perfect person. And the gross example he gave was of the ocean, that so many rivers feed water into the ocean. There was another devotee who was saying that, I think it was you or somebody, but it was someone yesterday was saying that if we can't take bath in the Ganga, maybe we can take bath in the ocean. And in a sense, Prabhupada said that's okay, because all the bodies of water on the earth are all connected through the oceans. All the oceans are connected, and all the rivers are connected to the oceans. So if we can't take birth we can't take bath in the Ganga, we can take bath in another river or another ocean. The ocean is the best place, another ocean, because it's very purifying. So that's about all. Any points anyone wants to raise, or any questions? Yes. Anyone? Yes.
No, sometimes I've been quizzical since I was a young devotee, and I asked someone, and you can reply. Seems like Prahlad Maharaj here is, in his prayers to Nrsimhadev, is requesting, like as you said, protection. But then Srila Prabhupada sometimes indicates that even a devotee doesn't need to be concerned for his own maintenance, because he is under the protection of the Lord by doing devotional service. And that it's also maybe a materialistic concept to pray for protection of the body.
Well, it's not, the prayers for protection, as far as I understand it, are not just prayers for ourselves and our maintenance and our safety and all that sort of thing, but it's prayers for the maintenance of the movement of ISKCON, that it be protected, because there's always many obstacles that we have encountered. We encounter obstacles with, in the 60s and 70s there was a deprogramming movement, which was very, very deeply opposed, and in Russia there's been the Russian Orthodox Church who have been very opposed, and in Poland the Catholics sometimes oppose us. Not all of them, but high up people, they're very, very worried that Hare Krishnas are going to take over the spiritual life of the Poles. So there's always something. And there's an Nrsimhadev installed in Mayapur that's prayed to every day, and it's not just for individual maintenance and protection and safety and well-being and good health of all the devotees, but it's for the protection of ISKCON and the movement. Because there's always many things that there's government that try to stop us, there's court cases and demonic natures. And it's very difficult to preach Krishna consciousness in a very materialistic world for many reasons. One reason is that Krishna has a curtain of Maya surrounding him, and glaring effulgence, which is referred to in Isha. It's also because we have very sinful desires deeply buried within us, bija desires, and it's also because the strength of Maya is inestimably great, and therefore many people who have all kinds of advantages to be Krishna conscious they they succumb to the power of Maya. It's very difficult. So Prahlad Maharaj, his prayers to Sri aren't for him. I think, and these prayers are very special, at least for Prabhupada. He had memorized a lot of the verses and he could sing them in the 7th canto. We talk about Prahlad's instructions and his prayers. And in one of the prayers he says that he's not himself afraid of the material nature, which is very strong, but his concern, he's part of Dukkha-Dukhi, he has compassion for all living entities. His concern is for all those conditioned souls who are very much enamored by materialistic thrall, the materialistic glitter of Maya, which is attracting all the kids. That's why he's praying. He's not praying for himself. He's not praying for his own safety, but he's praying for the safety and well-being of all others. One of the definitions of Krishna is that he's Bhagrahi Janardana, that he sees only the good parts, good sides of everyone. And in one sense, everyone is a devotee of Krishna. You just said a Krishna Prema Sajikavana Shravana Vishita Chitte Kari. It's mentioned in the Chaitanya Chaitamrita that Krishna is in the hearts of everyone, and the Krishna consciousness just needs to be awakened. So there's maybe people are just taking baby steps. Maybe they just come to restaurants, or they meet a devotee somewhere, some way, and they become favorably inclined towards Krishna consciousness. And maybe that's just a small step. Maybe someone becomes a vegetarian. That's also a very small step, but it's an important step. And so it was Prabhupada himself that implemented the idea of opening many restaurants to get people to start associating with devotees and Krishna Prasadam, which is a kind of mercy of Krishna. So these are some of the reasons why Prahlad Maharaj's prayers are important. That he's not praying for himself, that he's praying for all conditioned souls to become Krishna conscious. Krishna conscious is kind of an awakening process. And I think it was said that gallons of blood have to be spent to make one person become a devotee. And I think it was also said that we shouldn't be surprised how many people leave Krishna consciousness, but how many people stay in Krishna consciousness, how many people remain in Krishna consciousness throughout their lifetime. It's a very difficult thing, and Maya is very strong. And in one sense, Krishna consciousness is a system of recreation. It involves chanting, dancing, feasting, singing, glorifying the Lord. It's a very happy process, but in another sense, it's a very difficult thing to do throughout one's whole life, because of the strength of material nature, and because of our own desires to enjoy this material nature, and because Krishna is not very easily and readily attainable. These are just some of the things. As to why these prayers are important, and why it's important to pray to Srimad constantly. And we're not praying for ourselves, but for the protection of ISKCON, for the protection of our devotional creepers, which are very, very fragile, we might say. Is that it? Yes. Any other comments? Yes?
Sometimes we hear it preached that one should be careful about how one prays, or whether one prays all the Sunday because of the type of purification or so forth that one may receive, and whether one's prepared for that. Is there an argument about being careful for praying on Sunday?
About being careful to pray to Lord Srimad?
Yeah, because it's said that when one prays Lord Sunday, sometimes one gets all sorts of manner of calamities, material things happen in one's life, and one may not be prepared for that. So I've heard different devotees preaching that, perhaps like the greenhouse, that perhaps you shouldn't be praying Lord Sunday.
Well, there's prayers for self-preservation, and prayers for good health, and prayers for my own well-being. Those probably may be considered fallacies, because prayers to Nrsimhadev are not only to protect me from untimely death, but to protect all beings somehow, to protect his kind of movement. But there's danger that one can pray to Nrsimhadev for wealth, for a beautiful wife, for many followers, and so on. So that's an incorrect way of praying, as far as I know. Sometimes people pray for that. Or what does protection actually mean? Does it mean protection from untimely death, or protection from poverty, or whatever? In one sense, it's said that poverty is the wealth of the Brahmins, so the devotees don't really, they always are protected in one sense by Krishna. But these are prayers to remind us that we have to be dependent, not only protection, but dependency is part of surrendering to Krishna. We don't worry about our own selves, or worry about where our meals are going to come from, or worry about money. But we are concerned about other people. That's the feeling the whips on other people's back, or compassion, as far as Paraduka. There was one devotee that Prabhupada talked about, he was mentioned, Vasudeva Dutt, in the Chaitanya Chaitamrita, who was the personification of Paraduka. And Lord Chaitanya admired him very much and allowed him to drink the water that washed his feet when he entered the Jagannath Puri temple, because he was so compassionate upon other people. Vasudeva Dutt, one of Lord Chaitanya's compatriots, we might say. Yes?
Lord Nrsimhadev Mayapur is sometimes affectionately called Dr. Nrsimhadev, because devotees pray to him for health problems they have. And Lord Nrsimhadev can also remove those, because there are also obstacles in performance of devotional service.
My understanding is that devotees don't pray for benedictions, but they sort of come anyway, because Krishna rewards them. Like with Dhruva Maharaj, when he actually saw Krishna, he had no material desires, even though the Lord was prepared to offer him anything he wanted. But he didn't want anything, and the Lord bestowed upon him all kinds of mercy, that he would have his own planet, that he would be a perennial doorkeeper of the Lord, and so on and so forth. So the Lord is prepared to offer even, and Sudama Brahman's another person. He was very poverty-stricken. And when he prayed to the Lord, he was given great wealth. He was so amazed when he came back to his dwelling that the Lord had transformed his little hut into a beautiful palace, and his wife into a very glamorous and beautiful demigoddess from a very ordinary looking sort of lady. So these things happen. But again, we're not praying for ourselves, we're just praying for everybody. It's sometimes very difficult to see the good in everyone, because some people manifest very demonic qualities and some people actually are very demonic. But in this age, it's very difficult to know who is a demon and who is a devotee. I think it was said that in this age, that in certain families, devotees, divine qualities and devotee qualities can be even in the same person. There was one devotee, I think I told this story, but this is kind of like the Kiwi cavalcade time, so I'm going to repeat it. There was one devotee who saw a Sankirtan party, and his first response was to kick a devotee in the leg. And this person who did the kicking became a devotee. And as far as I know, is still a devotee. In good standing, by the way. Whatever that means. Anything else?
It's just in conclusion, prayers could be different from like Nrsimha Kavacha or Narayan Kavacha, where Narayan Kavacha, it's just reading that where the devotee is actually praying for the protection of his own body. He's putting on the mantras to protect his body specifically. So it seems like these prayers are on a different level, because as you're saying, they're praying for welfare of auspiciousness of everybody.
Yeah, everybody includes myself. So even though those Nrsimha Kavacha prayers are for my own protection, they're, like you said, they're on a higher level, and they're really for all jivas. And Krishna has a very difficult job, because the thief is praying that he's going to be able to steal, and the person who owns the jewels is praying to Krishna that the thief isn't going to take my jewels, and Krishna wants to satisfy everybody, because he's Bhavagrani Janardana. He sees the Krishna consciousness in everybody. So he has a very difficult job, and it's impossible for conditioned living souls to reconcile all those different desires. But somehow or other, Krishna does it, just like he did in the case of Hiranyakashipu and Prahlad. So I think I better end, because Prashad is going to be getting inevitably cold. Hare Krishna. Thank you. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.